Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into a fascinating 1982 sermon from Sun Myung Moon that totally flips the script on what it means to win. It's a journey, really, that connects personal victory to a pretty unique idea of true love, and then builds that all the way up to a blueprint for world peace. So let's jump right in. So, right off the bat, the sermon asks this really fundamental question. We tend to think of victory as, well, beating someone in a game or winning a fight. But what if victory was something you could actually achieve every single day, right in your own life? That's the idea we're going to explore. And here is the core idea. Victory isn't about crushing your opponent. It's about digesting a problem, breaking it down until it's just not an obstacle anymore. Think about it, like when you finally master a new skill, or you wrestle with a tough problem until you solve it. That's a kind of victory, and there's a very specific way to go about it. This is where a pretty cool analogy comes into play. Imagine you're facing a problem. Instead of a head-on collision, which, let's be honest, usually just creates more conflict, the sermon suggests a circling motion, kind of like how a pool ball can curve around another ball instead of hitting it straight on. The thinking here is that this kind of approach can actually calm down the opposition, instead of just making the fight worse. Okay, so that brings up a really important question, right? If we're constantly trying to overcome obstacles and win these little victories, what's the point? What is the final victory we're supposed to be aiming for? Well, the sermon has a very, very clear answer. And there it is. The ultimate victory, the end goal of all our struggles, is true love. Not power, not money, not even knowledge, but a very specific, profound kind of love. And this is a big but, this is not some fluffy, romanticized idea. The sermon is brutally honest that the path to true love is incredibly hard. The challenges are described as being more painful than chopping off an arm or leg. That really tells you just how serious and profound this journey is meant to be. So to get to that goal, the sermon lays out this great metaphor. You have to cross 4 really difficult bridges: the unique bridge, the unchanging bridge, the absolute bridge, and finally, the eternal bridge. Each one of these represents a quality that a person has to develop and embody to finally arrive at true love. All right, so to really understand the nature of this true love, we need to dig into the theological foundation of the sermon. And that's all about the relationship between God and humanity. Now, the sermon presents a really powerful logical idea here. Think about it. Love always needs 2 parts, right? A giver and a receiver. So if that's true, then even an absolute being like God would need a partner to complete that love. And that leads to the big question. Who is meant to be God's perfect object? Well, the sermon points to 4 key attributes of God. For a person, or for humanity, to become that perfect partner for God's love, they have to reflect these same qualities. And hey, look at that. Unique, eternal, unchanging, absolute. Those sound a lot like the 4 bridges we just talked about, right? So this really clarifies the dynamic. God is the absolute subject, the one initiating love. For humanity to be the perfect counterpart, it has to take on what the sermon calls a humble, feminine, or objective position. It's all about being receptive and reflecting back those divine characteristics. And this quote right here shows what that humble position looks like in the real world. Why should you love your enemy? The sermon argues it's not about being weak, it's actually about being incredibly focused. When you are that close to the ultimate goal, to God, you just don't have the time or energy to waste on smaller fights. You forgive, you go around the obstacle, and you keep moving forward. Okay, so how does this all fit together? Well, the sermon uses a really powerful visual metaphor to explain how this true love is structured. It's called the circle of love, and it explains everything from the family all the way out to the entire cosmos. The first piece of this model is the vertical line. You can picture it as a direct line of love flowing straight down from God, through the Father, and then to the eldest son, who carries on that lineage. And the second piece, that's the horizontal line. This represents the mother's love. Its job is to connect all of those individual vertical lines. It's what links families together to create a society, and eventually, all of humanity. So let's just put that all together. The vertical line is the father's love. The horizontal line is the mother's love. And where do they intersect? They create the family, which the sermon calls the most basic, fundamental building block of the kingdom of heaven. And this whole model isn't supposed to be static. It's designed to expand, to ripple outward. The same principles of vertical and horizontal love that form the family are meant to grow, creating bigger and bigger circles that eventually include the tribe, the nation, the whole world, and even the entire cosmos. And now, this is where we connect all the dots. Remember, we started with victory, we moved through true love, and now we finally arrive at the ultimate outcome promised in the title of the sermon, universal peace. Now, the sermon gives a very precise definition of peace. It's not just the absence of conflict. It's a state of perfect harmony that you find at that exact intersection point, where the vertical line representing God and the mind meets the horizontal line representing humanity and the body. So, how is this peace actually achieved? Well, the sermon lays out 3 practical articles. First, you need unity inside yourself, between your mind and body. Second, you need unity in marriage, between husband and wife. And third, you need unity in the family, between parents and children. This all leads to one of the most provocative, really mind-bending claims in the sermon. How could true love possibly be bigger than God? Well, the logic here is that God, as a purely vertical being, needs the horizontal partnership of humanity to create that complete circular motion of love. Without that give and take, that circle, well, it just can't be completed. And that really brings us to our final thought. We've gone on this incredible journey from the idea of a simple personal victory all the way to a model for cosmic harmony. And it's all built around this one idea of love being a circle. So the question to leave you with is this. In your own life, where does that circle begin?